friends, welcome back. We are discussing about the contingency models of leadership. We have till now discussed about Fiedler's model of leadership and path goal theory of leadership. Today I will discuss about another model of contingency leadership style, that is leader participation model. This model of leadership was developed by Victor Vroom and Yeton in the year 1973, and later on it was revised with Arthur Jago in the year 1988. This is another model which is completely based on leader participation, leader behavior and participation in decision making. In the previous lecture I already discussed that every leadership has a common objective, that is effectiveness and efficiency of leader, followers and organizational goals. But the path and the base or perspective what they have is different. So, if we talk about leader participation model, then this model is completely based on leader behavior and participation in decision making. That means how leader behavior and participation of followers can be enhanced based on effective decision making style. So, in this kind of model of leadership, decision making has been the major perspective of the theory. So, according to this model, recognizing that task structures have varying demands for routine and non-routine activities, this theory argued that leader behavior must adjust to reflect the task structure. Definitely, when task structure is the main concern, then it is automatically related to decision making, that a set of guidelines or rules have to be established which will define and decide that how the task has to be performed, be it routine or non-routine task. That means which follower or employee will perform which kind of task based on a particular decision, that will define the leader member relationship and the leader's behavior. So, if we are talking about the Victor Vroom's model of leader participation model, then it is actually based on some norms. That means this theory has some normative nature. Why? Because it is completely based on norms which decides that how the task has to be performed. So, Victor Vroom's model was normative in nature. Why? Because they have provided a sequential set of rules that should be followed in determining the form and amount of participation in decision making as determined by different types of situations. Situation will be different, it can take various turns, members will be similar, leader will also be the similar, but situation will vary. But how that situation will be resolved or overcome or encountered with what criteria, that depends on the leader's understanding whether it has to be participation and decision making or some other criteria that can be considered to deal with the situation. So, in leader participation model, the idea is that it has to be participation of employees along with leader in decision making, that to what extent the participation of the employees has been encouraged in different type of situations. So, these situations has been identified, and which kind and what is the degree of participation of the employees or followers has been discussed in this leader participation model. To overcome this situation or to prove this normative nature of this model of leadership, Victor Vroom and Yeton has identified a decision tree. It is again sequence by sequence. Initially they have provided a sequential set of rules that how the task has to be performed based on decision making and participation of employees. Now the next step that they have provided is a decision tree, a complex decision tree, because whenever any situation becomes complex, then to what extent and in what amount and quantity of participation is required in decision making will help us to define the leadership style and overcome the problem. So, they have also provided and identified a complex decision tree which incorporates 7 contingencies whose relevance could be identified by making yes or no choices. That means, they have identified 7 situations that under what circumstances and what amount of participation in decision making is required by the followers and which kind of leadership style can also fit in that situation and decision making criteria. So, Victor Vroom and Yeton have provided 7 contingencies or situations which can be considered whenever decision making is required in form of yes and no. Whether factors can be considered, a number of factors or set of factors can be considered all together to identify decision making process. But at this point of discussion here, the difference that comes or deviation that comes in the discussion is that initially Victor Vroom and Yeton provided 7 contingencies, but after revision by in collaboration with Arthur Jago, they provided 12 contingencies. They expanded the 7 contingencies to 12 contingencies in number, along with 5 alternative leadership styles. The leadership styles remained the same in the revised theory also, but the 7 contingency variables were expanded to 12 situations. So, based on these 12 situations, the leader can identify out of 12 how many situations are to be controlled via decision making process and participation of followers in the decision making process. So, these 12 contingencies are based on importance of decision, that means why a decision making is required in a particular situation, importance of obtaining subordinate commitment to the decision, that means even the decision has been taken in consultation with the followers, but they need to have the commitment from the followers that they are committed to what the decision has been taken for the task structure. The other is third, whether the leader has sufficient information to make a good decision. That means when all the tasks are being distributed among all the followers, then to what extent the leader has all the information based on the followers' information, so that the decision can be taken appropriately. If information is incomplete, then this situation has to be dealt while collecting or soliciting all the feedback and information from the followers. The fourth is that how well structured the problem is. That means even the task is one, but when the task to perform all the bits and pieces of roles are being defined among the followers, then to what extent every follower is facing different kind of problems, then how that problems are coming in a very structured manner. That means step by step and department to department people are coming with their problems in a very structured manner. That means all the practical and logical problems have been expressed before the leader. Fifth, whether an autocratic decision would receive subordinate commitment. For example, in any state of emergency, if the leader has to take his own unilateral decision, then to what extent the subordinates will be committed to abide by that decision. That means in every contingency there has to be yes or no either by the follower or by the leader. Then only the decision is being executed. The sixth is whether subordinates buy into the organization's goals. That means to what extent members or followers or employees are relating themselves to the organizational goals. Sometimes what happens that followers are just focusing on their personal goals at the workplace and they do not relate themselves with the organizational criterias. So, the leader has to identify that to what extent members are relating themselves or they immerse themselves, their functioning, they immerse their functioning to relate with the organizational goals. The more is the immersion of the employees in the organization, the more it is easy for the leader to make any commitment. Seventh, whether there is likely to be conflict among subordinates over solution alternatives. No matter what, whatever is the situation, whether the decision has been taken through participation of the employees or the decision has been taken unilaterally by the leader itself. If any solution has been proposed by the leader, then how the members will react to it, that will lead to conflict. If it leads to conflict, then again the leader has to focus and work upon solutions so that the conflict should be curbed or resolved. Whether subordinates have the necessary information to make a good decision. It is both the ways. If any leader requires any information to take any appropriate decision, then even the followers also require complete information from the leader so that they can also participate actively in the decision making process. Time constraints on the leader that may limit subordinate involvement. That means that the leader and the follower, they have enough time to invest in coming to a common decision making process. That means time constraints on the leader that may limit. It should not be that some constraint or pressure has been maintained by the leader so that the decision making can be faster. Sometimes if time constraint has been imposed on the followers, the decision making can also go wrong. So, that actually focus on the flexibility, that to what extent the leader and the follower are giving or investing time in identifying the loopholes and then taking the right decision. Whether cost to bring geographically dispersed the subordinates together justified. That means all other factors, logical factors, logistic factors, and at the same time geographical factors are also being considered in this type of model. That what if any task has to be accomplished and some expertise is required, outside expertise are required, then to what extent members are convinced to call upon all the members who are out of the organization holding specific expertise to accomplish a particular goal. So, that means members should also express their consent that bringing all together the external members of the organizations from different locations to get the task done, that has to be the part of decision making process. Importance to the leader of minimizing the time it takes to make the decision. That means sometimes if time constraint is there, then also decision making goes wrong, and if so much of time has been taken by leader and the member to take a particular decision, then that also delays the decision making process, that can inhibit the effectiveness of the performance. That means procrastination should not exist in the decision making process. And the last is that importance of using participation as a tool for developing subordinate decision skills. Sometimes the leader has to encourage members to participate in decision making process, so that brainstorming is there, creative solutions also come up in the decision making process, and more creativity is being exhibited by the members, so that the decision making process can be enhanced. That means decision making should not be based on previously held decision making styles and members come up with some novelty. So, based on this, these 12 contingent factors proposed by Arthur Jago and Victor Vroom and Yeton, they have identified and renamed this model as Vroom-Yeton-Jago normative decision model, which helps to answer the above questions based on yes and no. That the leader can tick upon all these situations whichever is existing, and based on these situations what kind of decision making can be pursued. Now, based on this, they have also identified 5 leadership styles, identifying or ticking on the contingent factors based on the statements of yes and no, and then fitting those statements to a particular leadership style will help the leader and the follower to engage in appropriate decision making process. Now, this leadership styles that will be followed will be used in terms of amount. That means either it is consultative, then what should be the degree and extent that consultation should be included in the decision making process. Even if it is autocratic, then what extent and what degree of autocratic behavior of the leader is required to engage in particular decision making. So, based on that, the 5 leadership style that has been identified in this normative decision model are autocratic type 1, that means the degree, autocratic type 2, consultative type 1, consultative type 2 and group based type 2. Now, in every leadership style, the amount of participation of the follower has been defined in a very clear manner, and ultimately the decision either is taken by the leader or the follower. So, if we talk about autocratic type A1, in this type of leadership style, a leader makes his own decision using information that is readily available to him or her at that particular time, and this type is completely autocratic. Here the leader collects all the information on his own and takes the decision unilaterally. He is not consulting the followers depending on the type of situation. That means, if situation is very intense, very emergent, then the autocratic leadership style will be executed in a 100% manner or 360-degree framework. That means no participation is encouraged by the followers, and ultimately the decision has been taken by autocratic leader, that is autocratic type A1, where there is no intrusion of the followers. But sometimes the situation is different, where autocratic type of leadership also required and leader participation can also be included in the process. So, in this type of leadership style, the leader collects the required information from the followers and then makes the decision. That means the leader collects all the information, but the followers do not have any role play in the decision making process. That means the involvement is just to provide information, not beyond that. This is the degree of autocracy that is being executed in decision making process as per the situation. The next is consultative type 1. Here, as the term implies, that the leader shares problem with relevant followers individually and seek their ideas and suggestions and make decisions alone. That means decision making is completely in the hands of the leader, but the leader will only allow its members to participate in decision making based on the information that is given by some selected followers of the group. So, under such circumstances, consultation is there to a limit which is not encouraged beyond a particular point of time, and the decision is taken by the leader itself. So, here in this kind of leadership style, followers do not meet each other and the leader decision may or may not reflect the followers influence. That means the influence is completely redundant in this kind of leadership style. Only information is collected or solicited from the employees and decision is taken by the leader itself. That means here followers involvement is at the level of providing alternatives individually, that the leader can just select few members individually, pick 1 or 4 members from the group, discuss the matter with them, collect the information or solution they propose, and the decision is completely taken by the leader itself. The other is consultative type 2. The leader shares problems with relevant followers as a group and seeks their ideas and suggestions and makes a decision alone. Again, initially the degree was that only few members were involved, but in consultative type 2, maybe the group is being involved in the decision making process, where information is being shared by the employees or the followers. They give their own solutions, they voice their own opinions that what can be the solution or any alternative to the solution, and they understand all the alternatives, but the leader decision may or may not reflect the followers influence. That means all the alternatives to the problem, to the solution is been collected on a paper, but the decision will be the leaders only. That means the leader is the more dominant factor in this type of leadership model, and there is less influence of the followers. Inclusion is there, involvement is there, participation is there, but decision making lies in the hands of the leader based on the amount of leadership style that can be executed as per the situation. And the last is group based type 2. The leader discusses problems and situations with followers as a group and seeks their ideas and suggestions through brainstorming, and the leader accepts any decision and does not try to force his or her idea. That means here the leader is completely dependent on the solution given by the group members altogether, and the leader respects the solution proposed by the group members. So, the decision accepted by the group is the final one. That means in this kind of leadership style, the leader respects the group members decision and is being executed in a very stringent manner, where the involvement of the leader is minimum or it is absolutely 0. So, this is how the 5 leadership styles has been identified based on the amount of style that has to be executed according to the situation. That means based on the 12 evaluative statements, that is yes and no. This is the leader participation model, where decision making is also existing, consultation is also existing, and at the same time group decision making is there, and most importantly autocratic leadership style is existing, based on the leader's power to be executed accordingly. So, based on this diagram we can say that three types of leaders exist in this theory: autocratic, consultative and group based leadership. And how these three leaders are consulting with the employees based on autocratic leadership style, consultative leadership style and group based leadership style. That means, follower is the constant variable in this model, but leadership, amount of leadership or extent or degree of leadership style is varying from situation to situation. So, again the difference from other two theories that we have discussed is that the focus is on leader, follower and decision making. So, this is how this model has been developed, that all the three factors, leader, follower and decision making, are working hand in hand, but the situation is varying. So, when situation is varying from time to time, the decision making is also varying and the involvement of every follower is also varying from time to time. But this theory has been criticized on one particular aspect, that it is very difficult to encourage this type of participation, because more so the leader is more dominant and participation of followers is less encouraging. So, this becomes a typical managerial strategy to resolve the problems. And to resolve this issue, Victor Vroom and Jago have developed a computer program to guide managers through all the decision branches in the revised model. That means, role of technology has also been taken place and considered appropriately, that in what basis the model, that is the decision tree, can be understood in a very technical manner, where every kind of leadership can fit in and every type of participation by the follower can be fit in for appropriate decision making. So, the three models, Fiedler's model of leadership, path goal theory of leadership and leader participation model of leadership constitutes the contingency model of leadership. Next comes contemporary theories of leadership, which I will discuss in the next video. Thank you so much.